Okay, welcome. We are already in session for our regular meeting of Thursday, August 8th, 2024, Victor Central School Board of Education. We are at 1A, so if we could please stand for a moment of silence. Thank you. I'm going to ask Dr. Terranova to lead us in the pledge this evening, please. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Greetings, visitors, the big crowd. Thank you. Just do the reminder, persons wishing to address the board must sign up prior to the start of the public participation. Speakers must register on the form provided by the district at the entrance of the boardroom to maintain a first-come, first-served process. For purposes of following up with speakers, the speakers must provide their name, address, telephone number, and/or email address. To limit comments to matters which may be properly discussed during public participation, the speakers will provide the topics. Any group or organization wishing to address the board must identify a single spokesperson. Thank you for that consideration. Item D is the fire evacuation procedure. In case of a fire, would everyone please follow the exit sign to the outside of the building? Please stay completely clear of the building to provide space for any fire department vehicles. And thank you for that. Okay, 1E is something I need to frame first before we continue. It's appointment to the Board of Education to fill a vacancy. Kristen Elliott resigned as of June 30th, so we do have an open seat. What I did was consulted with our legal counsel to find out what our responsibilities and options are, and so I'm going to read a couple of things that were sent to me. Once the resignation is effective, the vacancy technically must be filled. As discussed, the board has a couple of options to fill the vacancy. The board may fill the vacancy by calling a special election within 90 days after the vacancy occurs, or number two, by majority vote of the whole board, it may fill a vacancy by appointing a qualified person. If the vacancy is filled by special election, the newly elected member will serve the remainder of the term, whereas if the vacancy is filled by appointment, the newly appointed member will serve only until the next regular election. And then over the years, this was counseled by our legal counsel, over the years, many boards in the region fill a vacancy that is close in time to the annual election with the next highest vote getter who is not a successful candidate. It's not required, but it's a potential option. And I want to say that that would be my recommendation, and that's the reason that I invited Elizabeth Mitchell here this evening, so that perhaps if you follow my recommendation, we could appoint Elizabeth this evening, and she could sit at the table as soon as we cast a vote. In addition, we took the time to bring Elizabeth up to speed on some of the issues. She met with Tim, or spoke with Tim, Dr. Terranova, about the capital project. I provided her with some information about the capital project so that she would be well informed, so that if this board chooses to appoint Elizabeth, she can sit at this table and be confident with voting on the capital project. So, open for discussion. I also chose to wait until this meeting rather than the July meeting. We only had 4 of us at the July meeting, and I wanted to make sure that every board member had the opportunity to weigh in on this important decision. So there we are. So comments, questions, anyone?
I would agree with your recommendation.
Okay. So then I would ask for a motion to appoint Elizabeth Mitchell to the Board of Education as the highest vote getter who was not successful. So moved. Motion by Dr. Park, second.
Lisa, or Adam can take it.
Adam
He had his
beat
arm
you
up
to it.
first.
Any other comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Elizabeth, you're in. Come and take an oath. And sit on down. Okay, welcome, Elizabeth. Congratulations, and look forward to your knowledgeable counsel. Thank you. Item 2, approval of the agenda. I need a, does somebody say something? Did I miss something? No, I guess. Oh, okay, sorry. Motion to approve this evening's agenda, please.
Brian?
Ryan, second.
Lisa.
Lisa, any comments or questions about this agenda? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Thank you. Item 3, superintendent's update. Dr. Terranova, please.
Thank you, Mr. DeLucia. Want to highlight a couple things. So, actually this week, I think it was Tuesday, we had our second of summer meetings around the mission and vision work. In both meetings, I think the first we had about 17 people, and on Tuesday we had 13, maybe 14. It was made up of Board of Ed, staff, students, and community members. They were under Causeway Group's leadership to try to take a significant amount of data that was gathered in the last few months about what both community members, staff members, and students really felt about the direction and need for the direction for our district for the next 20 to 25 years. They worked on a rough draft of the vision, and then in our last meeting, we really picked apart that rough draft and made some suggestions as a group, and that is going back to the Causeway group, and they're going to send us back a revised version the week of August 19th. Obviously, we're going to want full board review of what the final vision looks like to make the final decision on whether we want to edit that at all. But I think we're in great shape moving forward. And I just want to emphasize in both meetings this summer, we had significant input from students. The high school students have been amazing, and they've contributed a lot to these conversations. So I'm feeling even more hopeful about our vision because they have such a stake in it and such input. So really happy about that work. I will give you some examples of some themes that are coming out. They're not final themes, but they are sort of starting to shape. And this is just a few of them, not all of them. Victor is a learning community grounded in respect, inclusivity, and empowerment. Every day in every building, every person will feel safe, valued, inspired, and motivated to grow, both academically and personally. By celebrating diversity, fostering a sense of belonging, and striving for academic achievement, we will empower students to become informed, confident scholars and leaders who are prepared to thrive in an ever-changing world. And there's also a major theme around the unique culture of having a one-campus district of this size. So we're going to be working on the district mission the end of August. I believe it's August 26th. And again, the board will have significant input on the final copies of the revision and the mission. I want to emphasize the work that Derek, Felice, and Alex T. Paul DeWitt did around breakfasts and lunches for 24-25. Because of their work and the continued looking at our student data, our percentage of families qualifying for free and reduced lunch, being as analytical as they are, has reached a point where we are able to offer free breakfasts and lunch to all of our students in Victor next year. I'm going to read you a letter that's going, or an excerpt of a letter that's going to parents. We're pleased to inform you that the Victor Central School District will be participating in the community eligibility provision for the 24-25 school year, which is available to schools participating in National School Lunch and School Breakfast programs. All students enrolled at Victor are eligible to receive a healthy breakfast and lunch at school at no charge each day of the 2024-25 school year. Children will be able to participate in this program without having to submit an application. However, we encourage families to submit the information they typically submit around this, because that's the way we continue to qualify for these types of opportunities. So I really thank Derek and his diligence with Alex, because now we're able to give free breakfast and lunch throughout the entire school year, which is amazing. And just a brief reminder that the start of school is coming up Wednesday, September 4th. Before that, staff has 3 days of preparation, but then on the 4th, kids are coming to school. Kindergarten, I believe, is the 5th. But please reach out, and for people listening or listen a little later, please reach out to your school or check our website for back-to-school information. There's starting to become more and more information that's available to parents, and we encourage you to read that and call your school if you have questions. That's all for my update. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Terranova. Item 4 is presentations, recognitions, none at this time. I always like to thank this board. I think we have an excellent board. We have a new member in Carol, who has joined us, their second meeting, correct? And welcome back Elizabeth to the table. So this is a good board. I think I'm really confident in the decisions and the work that this board is going to do in this school year. So thank you for being here. Public participation, anyone? Okay, we're done with 5. Acceptance of consent items. We have 6A through M. And I'm hitting my microphone, sorry. So I need a motion to accept these consent items, please. Elizabeth, second.
Lisa?
Lisa?
Any comments or questions on any of these items?
Mr. DeLucia, I just would recognize 2 of our teachers who are retiring as at the end of, one is the end of August and one is the end of July. That's Leanne Shattuck from the ECS and Marcy Pembroke, who teaches science at the junior high. Both of them are retiring, and we honor them and thank them for their service.
Okay. Other comments?
I would just call attention to say thank you to the PTSA for their donation, their generous donation to the intermediate school for literacy materials.
Great.
Programs, I should say, literacy programs.
Thank you for that comment. Anything else? See none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Thank you. Item 7A is campus news. I believe Dr. Terranova
Yes,
is charged with that again.
This is the last month I'll be doing this for a while, I hope. So, but it is a great thing. So let's talk about the 5 buildings, the VCS. The custodial team is hard at work getting the buildings cleaned and ready to welcome our students. Our welcome back newsletter will be sent out to families and staff by tomorrow. This will have a ton of important information in it. We, as a leadership group, the ECS team met with our building leadership this week to review and finalize our building goals and planning for our opening day faculty meeting, professional learning communities for the 24-25 school year, and to review the data from our spring staff pulse survey and correlating action items in response to the feedback. So a ton of work's going on at the ECS, and they're looking forward to a fantastic start to the school year. At the primary building, our elementary administrators are excited for our popsicle playground night. We have our the first one is, actually that's all 3 elementary principals. The first one is next Tuesday at Mertenzia Park. The following week, we will be at Municipal Park. And a big thank you to the PTSA who's providing the popsicles, and we'll be there to sell PTSA spiritware. The primary building has been filled with students for extended school year and summer academy. There are also students in the building for summer enrichment and sports camps. It's really exciting to see so many students learning and being active over the summer. It's such a reminder that our campus is such an important part of our Victor Farmington community. VPS is excited to welcome our students back for our meet and greets on September 3rd and for their first day of school on September 4th. At the intermediate building, as you know, Mr. Morrow has recently started as principal there. Students have been buzzing with creativity and enthusiasm during Camp Invention and a diverse range of enrichment classes that have occurred during that time. From launching rockets to learning Italian, students have showcased their talents and explored new interests. Our extended school year for students with disabilities and summer academy for programs are in full swing, with students diligently building their knowledge and gearing up for the upcoming school year. As we eagerly anticipate the return of all staff and students later this month, we look forward to another exciting and productive school year ahead. At the junior high, we are excited to have our counseling team back over the next few weeks. Orientation for 7th graders is set for Wednesday, August 21st. That's a big day for our incoming 7th graders. And the junior high will have their building teacher leader meeting on August 27th, where they will finalize their goals for the year as well. And at the high school, we're getting ready to welcome the freshman class of, you guessed it, 2028 on Tuesday, August 13th with our orientation program. Special thanks to health teacher Ms. Katie McEntee and special education teacher Mr. Mike Guido, as well as the student leaders who are going to be supporting our freshman class with a day of fun team building activities and check-ins throughout the year. Also, Monday, August 19th is our annual Senior Connection, which is a fantastic way for our class of 2025 to get together and kick off their senior year on a positive note. The students will be doing some friendly competitions, team building activities, and painting their parking spots. If you get a chance to go to it's an amazing experience. It's a great day on August 19th. And something I witnessed today, which was also fantastic, our annual college camp started this week, and as always, it has been an enormous success for our seniors who are getting a head start on the college exploration and application process. This class started under the leadership of Deb McManus approximately 13 years ago, where she came up with the idea, and 15 kids started with that initiative 13 years ago. This year, 175 seniors are attending. Every year, we have an increase in the number of seniors who are applying for early decision on their college applications. Last year, over 1/3 of the seniors did this. This number keeps increasing, which shows how competitive the college application process has become, but very much highlights the value of our college camp. So a huge shout out to, now that I think there's 3 to 4 adults helping out under Deb McManus's tutelage, and they're in the library at the junior high, senior high at 8 in the morning or 8:30 in the morning, whatever it is, and doing a great job. So that is the campus news for August.
Okay, thank you again, Dr. Terranova. Item 7B is the 24-25 Management Plan Overview. Karen Finter, please.
The Assistant Superintendent for Instruction. Tonight, Karen and I will share with you highlights from the Year 3 Management Plan. The Year 3 Management Plan continues to be anchored in the 3 pillars of culture, learning and instruction, student supports, and opportunities. Our Year 3 Management Plan begins its development in the spring. The leadership team and key stakeholders take time to look at the goals, tasks, and action steps that were identified and look to see where they are in terms of completing them for this school year. Some items and tasks are identified to be carried over into this current plan. And at that time, we look at what those tasks are, and by June, we identify what tasks are going to be carried over, and we incorporate them into the Year 3 management plan. Between June and August, feedback and input is sought from stakeholders and leadership staff to really develop the 24-25 management plan. The action steps of the plan are finalized by August, and these action steps directly inform the focus areas and goal areas for each building and department.
So as we enter year 3 of our management plan, we need to kind of stop and think about what is the influence of this plan. Well, it really boils down to a few key things. The management plan and the strategic plan that it comes from really ignite areas of focus. We frame our annual goals, yes, with this plan in mind, but there's also additional areas that might sit out of those goals. There also might be some tasks that carry over and others that just naturally become part of our system after a year of implementation or a year of work. If you remember last year, year 2, a big area of focus in the student supports and opportunities pillar was the integrated co-taught model for special education and really developing our continuum of services. That work doesn't go away, it doesn't evaporate. We're still moving forward and under Karen's leadership, implementing the ICT program across other grade levels, but it doesn't sit in the management plan, it's just part of the fabric of our work. We know that, as Tim mentioned, the management plan directs connectly to the mission and vision work, and it really will connect to our pillars, as you'll see starting in September. In October, the management plan will come alive with you under the lens of data. So what are those benchmark areas we're going to set for ourselves in terms of student achievement, and how are we going to evaluate our progress moving towards that student achievement? I'll be sharing information with you that will kind of serve as a springboard for that work, but our building goals and our department goals will also have a quantitative value to them this year. So it's not just about we want to accomplish A, but we want to accomplish A because we've noticed this gap or this lag, and we want to set our sights, we want to set a numeric target, and if we don't hit it, that's okay, but we want to evaluate our progress. Let us know if we're in the right path or if we have to switch and change. So the management plan this year really is heavy in terms of data and using that information. And then finally, the last piece, as I mentioned, is around that building and goal. Buildings will set goals in the 3 pillars in those areas of alignment, but this year there's a lot of crossover across the pillars, as you can see as we think through the themes of the plan. So I know you all have a copy of the plan in front of you. It's about 30 some odd pages. If you really want to distill it down, these are the main themes of the plan. This year, a big focus is on student growth. And that student growth isn't just academic, but it's also their social emotional, and how are we helping to support students when they need something a little different or something a little extra, right, with that level of support. How are we helping to extend and enrich through things like work-based learning and our career and technical education opportunities? So student growth is one of the primary themes of the plan this year. Instruction and achievement for all. We're not losing sight of a student-centered, culturally responsive learning environment for our students. That idea that students are at the center of their learning. They have agency. They're doing the work and producing artifacts of their learning in the moment with their classroom teachers so that teachers can guide and shape and select resources that help students further their learning. That focus, in addition to all of the tremendous work that's gone into writing curriculum, will be now part of the implementation of that curriculum. Finally, the last theme is around organization and some of the strengths with our organization as a district as a whole, or as a building, or even as a classroom. And so what are those things that help drive the work, whether it's of the district, like the mission and vision, the wellness of our staff, or just how we're collaborating as part of a shared decision-making team. So those themes really strand the 3 different pillars, They don't live in isolation. There's really a lot of interconnected work. So as we think about some of the pillars and do a bit of a dive within them, you can see in the culture pillar, it's not just culture in terms of diversity, equity, inclusion, but it's culture in terms of our school community, our mission, vision, and values, our opportunities for wellness, opportunities for collaboration, some of the long-term planning that goes into facilities, technology, safety and security, building structures and scheduling, and then certainly that important work around equity and inclusion that we started last year with the finalization of our DEI plan, but also how are we enacting that plan and using a great partnership with the University of Rochester to conduct an equity audit. We started that this summer. They're doing a lot of analysis of data for us, and hopefully through the year we'll be able to share fruits of that work with you all. And then learning and instruction, the focus here hasn't really wavered, right? The consistency within the strategic plan was very clear. Document our curriculum, implement that curriculum with strong instructional practice, monitor student growth through the use of assessments, and use that data to feed the cycle. And that's really what we're focusing and continuing to hammer home this year. Karen's going to talk to you a bit about the student supports and opportunity pillars.
So within the student and supports and opportunity pillar, the work will really center around aligning the building and district practices related to the multi-tiered system of support, otherwise known as MTSS plan. And this work really will deepen the building's teams to analyze data at that tier 1 level so that we can really inform that instruction and learning that's happening in the classroom, as well as those social emotional practices and competencies we want for our students. Leadership and building teams are going to continue to build the social emotional learning with the focus of integration of the New York State Education SEL benchmarks. The SEL benchmarks really provide the building teams with those essential learning competencies we want students to have at every grade band, so that when students exit high school, we know that they have the emotional competencies and skills to engage in their secondary goals. In addition, we're really going to analyze some of our related services and supports K-12. We're going to look at that through a K-12 lens, but also in terms of identifying some enter and exit criteria, those methods of delivery to really promote the student growth at the highest level. So we're going to do some analysis there. And then finally, we're going to continue to implement and expand our career and technical program that we started last year under the direction of Sue Utz and Carrie Goodell. And we're also going to look at what opportunities we can provide our students by leveraging our community opportunities, as well as look at some of the internal opportunities we may have here in the future for the district for our students. So next steps. We're going to share and reflect on the themes of the plan during our opening days with our staff. We're going to utilize this plan to support goal setting and action steps within our departments. We're going to review the plan throughout the school year and really identify with our shared decision-making teams the focus areas. We're going to engage in that work and make this plan actionable. And then we're going to have the opportunity to come back to the Board of Education with updates periodically throughout the school year. Any questions for Karen and I?
I do have a question. This is fantastic. In terms of the NYSED SEL benchmarks, is there any discussion with the benchmarks for the adults in addition to the student benchmarks? And has that been a topic that's come up at all?
It is something that we are looking at in terms of that, and we'll build that into the into our supports and service part.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, other questions? Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Okay, item 7C will be the proposed capital project update. We'll listen to the update before we move to any actions.
So before I turn it over to Derek, I just want to tell a brief, very brief story about the history of our facilities at Victor Central School District. Back in 1939, a very forward-thinking Board of Education decided to purchase 166 acres of the Ladd Farm and build a single schoolhouse on those 166 acres, which happens to be the place we're in right now. And from my little study of history back then, it wasn't exactly the most popular decision to buy 166 acres when they didn't have enough students to fill that space. However, it's a very popular decision now, because if you fast forward to 2024, we now have 8 buildings on this 166 acres and over 5,000 people that are on our campus 5 days a week during the school year. I have to give a huge shout out to all of the school boards between 1940 and now, who have done an amazing job trying to keep up with that type of enrollment increase. I mean, since 2012, or since in the past 15 years, there's been over 500 kids that have been added to the district. And since 2012, they've done it. The board has done, the district has done 5 capital projects just in that time, and certainly many capital projects before that, so they could build buildings and build spaces to house this number of kids. What's been a significant challenge for this district, and is just amazing to deal with, is trying to keep up with that significant increase in enrollment. And I know that enrollment has stabilized the last few years, but to try to build the buildings and the classrooms to house that number of kids is very difficult, especially in a district that for many, many years had significant financial challenges from the state, where at one point we were the lowest per pupil expenditure school district of all school districts in New York State. So because of that, although we've been able to get enough space to house our kids and our staff, we haven't had enough space to fully support our large population of the students and staff, both within the confines of our buildings and on the campus, as anyone can tell when you're trying to park here. So the number of people on this campus has been a challenge. 2 other quick challenges. One is the complexity of our students has significantly increased over the past few years, past many years really. Significant number increase of students with disabilities, a significant increase in our English as new language learners, a significant increase in our students who are economically disadvantaged, and a significant increase in students who are challenged with mental health issues and mental health needs, just like students from across the country who have those needs. Those require very direct teaching, very specific teaching and support in smaller spaces to deliver that type of teaching. In addition to that, there's been new standards from New York State around 21st century learning goals, which includes a major focus on specialized classrooms to really support STEAM and STEM education, which includes science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics, and a major focus on CTE education, which is career and technical education, which again, these types of learning and teaching methods and teaching programs requires more specific, tailored teaching in very specialized classrooms. So the combination of the number of kids, the increased complexity of our kids, and the increased demands from the state around specialized instruction has created a tremendous strain on the current space in our district. We see that through many examples. It's challenging when teachers at the intermediate building are teaching out of closets. It is challenging when we have science labs at the junior high, one science lab for multiple science classrooms, and the science lab is not equipped for the type of 21st century science instruction that we need. It's challenging when you have multiple self-contained special education classrooms, whether it's 811 and resource room or other types of special ed programming all in one classroom when they really need to be separate, or a self-contained classroom, a sensory room, and an ENL room all in the same classroom. Those aren't supposed to be that way. So the great news is a big shout out to this board, because really over the past 18 months, we've all been wrestling with new ideas around the next capital project to put a significant dent into the space challenges. So I am pleased to bring to you, we are pleased to bring to you tonight a final recommendation for our capital project for your potential approval tonight, that ultimately would then, if it was approved, go to the community in the fall. I want to turn it over to Derek, who's going to get much more specific now around this capital project.
Thank you, Dr. Terranova. So, just a reminder, we're going to go over the scope. With the scope, we'll talk about the themes that kind of builds up that scope. An update for facilities planning. We've been doing this for a long time. Fortunately, we have some positive news today. And then, based off of what Dr. Terranova shared, what a piece of information that's going to be critical for your decision making is what is the impact, what is the cost, and then with that, the timeline. So as we built the project, everything kind of fit into 4 large categories. Those categories were safety and security, building renovations and innovations, some of that's at 21st century classrooms that Dr. Terranova was speaking about, facilities repairs, we got to maintain our buildings, and then additions based on enrollment and space needs. So some of these examples for safety and security include secure vestibules, new PA systems so we can adequately communicate in our buildings, security office space, additional parking, ADA enhancement, and turfing of the soccer fields. And we'll talk more about why that fell into that category. In the building and renovations and innovations, we include gymnasium improvements, air conditioning for large spaces, and that is a new add to the scope for this presentation. So we do want to highlight that air conditioning for large spaces is new. Renovating existing spaces back into classrooms such as offices, renovating the main offices, renovating the learning center and the old bus garage and bathrooms. Some facilities repairs include roof replacement, sanitary line replacements, HVAC repairs, and elevator repairs. And then, obviously, the addition based on space and enrollment are the needs that Dr. Terranova spoke about, both cafeteria and classroom spaces at the intermediate, junior, and senior high. So at the early childhood school, the list is right there. We kind of broke them out into categories so you can see where we derived our numbers and what we went into. So the main highlights on this would be the secure entrance, a transaction window as you come in. Currently, if you're coming to drop something off, you now have to enter into the office space. So basically like a teller window, so then you can exchange information with the office without coming into the building. Staff parking, so over in the parking lot over by district office, we're looking to expand closer to Field 24. Some of the PA clock upgrades, and then some other renovations throughout the building. In the primary school, we're looking to renovate the old records room into a classroom. It does not look like the rest of the building. There's some work that includes, it's mostly flooring and asbestos abatement, a main office renovation and reconfiguration. They will also receive the PA and clock upgrades, and their parking lot too will go towards field number 24 to expand for staff parking.
So I'm not smart enough to do all of this, so I'm just going to talk about the addition piece. I will mention air conditioning, so the large spaces are cafeterias and gymnasiums in all 5 buildings. A couple points about that. Number one, we had to close school for 2 half days this past spring because the heat index was significantly above 100. We believe, it's not a guarantee, but we believe that if we can increase the space for air conditioning, and especially these large spaces in all 5 buildings, it significantly decreases our need to do that. Again, I can't guarantee we wouldn't, but it certainly gives the opportunity for kids to be put in spaces that are conducive to learning. A second piece is we had to spend a significant amount of money to get temporary cooling systems in our junior and senior high gymnasiums. Certainly, we don't want to do that every year. This would take that out of the equation, and because you never can guarantee that we could actually get that type of equipment. And just from just a quality of life situation, the more spaces that we can condition with air or have air conditioning, the better, and the better for kids. If you've ever walked through our buildings when it's 95 degrees inside a classroom, you know what I'm talking about. I wish we could do the whole district, but again, we're trying to balance the needs of the district with the needs of the financial needs of our community. I do want to talk briefly about the additions at the intermediate school. That's 5 classrooms with 2 student restrooms, adding 1,500 square feet to the cafeteria. Here's some specifics for that. We have over 1,000 kids in 47 sections in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade next year. We barely have enough room right now to have 47 sections of classes, which means all the other really important types of teaching that need to happen that I talked about earlier are scrambling to find space. So by having this project, we're going to stop using closets to teach from. We're going to eliminate doubling special ed programs in one classroom, like having a 12-1-1 and a resource room in one classroom. We're going to be able to have a separate sensory room for some of our students in self-contained classrooms, and also have an ENL classroom instead of trying to share the two. In other words, one of the things that's been a kind of a domino effect of this is we are basically, unfortunately, at the intermediate building, segregating special ed kids from general ed kids because there's not enough space to integrate and have special areas and then move them back into the classroom. This would stop that segregation. It would also allow academic intervention services to have their own spaces to support kids, and certainly the cafeteria space would make for more appropriate lunch times because we could put more kids in the cafeteria. We'd have an additional lunch line, which would make the flow much more reasonable.
Thank you. In addition to those upgrades that Dr. Terranova mentioned, we're looking to do a little bit of renovations in the restrooms, both student and staff restrooms, some sound treatments to the music room because there are classrooms around them. So try to soften the noise so other students in the surrounding classrooms can learn. Remove a wall between room 181 and 183 to create a larger space, some HVAC replacement, roofing work, the PA clock, and the air conditioning. And they too will be getting a new parking lot, so not an expansion of a parking lot, but a new parking lot over in near the new addition. And then Dr. Terranova talked about the additions of the junior senior high.
So as you see, we are looking to add roughly 19 additional instructional spaces. Again, adding to the junior high cafeteria and upgrading electrical services. Examples of why we need this is we want to eliminate multiple junior high science classrooms from having to share a science lab that's not adequately equipped to teach science. So we'd be increasing those types of spaces. We're going to add space to in the high school, so we actually have a teaching space for our work-based learning program. We know that work-based learning occurs outside of school, but you also have to have classroom instruction that goes along with it. We don't have the space for that right now. This would go a long way in allowing more kids to participate in that. We want to eliminate the division of our high school library right now. Right now, the library is really split into 3 things. It's a special education classroom for a self-contained group of students. It's a college and career center. It's also the office for work-based learning currently. Oh, by the way, it's supposed to be the library as well. In this project, we're going to be able to actually have the library be the library and build enough space for the special education programming as well as work-based learning and career center so that kids and college recruiters and work recruiters can come in and actually have an actual space where they can work with kids. We want to increase room for business classes and computer science. An example right now, we have 9 business courses that are taught in 2 classrooms It's very challenging to fit all 9 courses into 2 classrooms and allow kids to participate in that. We want to increase space for additional self-contained special ed classrooms. There's not as many self-contained, especially 811 program classrooms in the high school. This would allow us to continue servicing kids who need that type of support from the junior high to the high school and possibly bring in outside kids from outside the district into the space. We want to increase related service provider space because we've increased staff members in those types of areas, whether it's speech, PT, OT, and other social workers, but they don't have the space to work with kids right now. We need that space, and that will allow for it. We also are looking at the potential of utilizing part of this new space for a community mental health clinic that would be operationalized during the day and after school. That would really be an added support for not just the students, but our families and the community. And the junior high cafeteria expansion is important because part of that expansion is tied to increasing space for students who struggle with sensory distortion and having too much senses coming at them and struggling with that. So it'd be a sensory-friendly area in the cafeteria that would support all kids, as well as the overall quality of life. If you walk through the junior high when it's packed in terms of that cafeteria, there's not a lot of room to eat. So that would support that as well.
In addition to the additions, we also will be including secure vestibules both at the junior high and the senior high, and a relocation of the junior high and senior high if the addition is to go across the front of the building. We don't need families to walk through the buildings to get to the main office, so we would like to move them to the exterior of the building. Convert what is currently a junior high locker room that's used mostly for storage into a space for our security office. Currently they're in a shared space. We kind of find a way for them, but now they have a dedicated space where they can do their investigation work. Turfing of field number 7 with ADA accessible and sidewalk. Some of the feedback that we received during the development of the scope was towards sectional play. The field tends to get a little rough, and it is concerning for students to be playing on it. In addition to that, marching band practices in the north parking lot. This will provide them an opportunity and a space to safely, out of the way of traffic, be able to practice. So that is why we put in the safety security. It is a renovation, but the main purpose of why it got included into the scope was the safety and security of our students. Modify the existing bleachers at Corbett Field to be ADA compliant. There is bleachers that are ADA compliant. We're talking about the middle section so families can participate and get a better view as well. As Dr. Terranova mentioned, we're going to be adding health clinics at both the junior high, the senior high, and then about 5,700 square feet of roofing replacement. The Victor Learning Center, Operations Center, and district-wide. So we are looking at a complete renovation of the Victor Learning Center. This would include the parking lot, the light fixtures outside. We have a temporary COI from New York State to use the space, but we do need to get it up to fire code, which is just a secondary egress. So there'll be man doors on the back of the building, so it's code compliant. Again, we have permission from New York State to use it as is, but we are limited in the amount of students that we can put in here. So as we make these renovations, we'll be able to increase the number of students, and as we've been using the space, we're learning more of how we could reconfigure that space to better fit our needs. The Operations Center, which is the old bus garage, we are looking to add a CTE automotive program and another class that we're still exploring, electrical program, something that will probably tie into that automotive program. And then district-wide, we're looking to replace 10,000 linear feet of sidewalks, just a routine maintenance. We always have a little placeholder for some. And then almost 27,000 square feet or linear feet of driveways around campus. So the cost breakup of this project, $23 million is going towards safety and security, just under $20 million to building renovations, $10 million to facility repairs, and the large amount is additions based off of enrollment. Some of that is site work, which brings the total up to $99,419,031. I'm going to pause at that if there's any questions for any of the board at this point.
Mr. Velisa, I have one about the District Learning Center. So it's worded as, thank you, complete renovation. So just to be clear, this is then soup to nuts, everything, because then there's going to be normal depreciation over years, so that we can then look at this piece of property, which, again, I applaud the board for purchasing it to vote to do that, that we're not going to have to touch this for any capital project or normal budgetary things for some years to come.
That's the plan. We want to get a new roof on it, update the boiler, the parking lot, the lights, reconfigure the spaces for our need going forward. Yes, that would be the plan.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Velise, was there any discussion about a walkway or a sidewalk that connects Learning Center up to campus? Or is that just not plausible based on the land that's directly behind the building?
It is plausible. I mean, there has been discussion about it. We haven't really defined where that 10,000 linear feet is going to occur. That could be it.
This could be included in that?
Potentially, yes. One of the things that we did explore was adding additional parking, but if you are up by the pool, you can see where the water is. It actually goes under the ground there, so in order to add parking in that space, there would be a significant increase, but I believe the two gentlemen over here are better experts than I am, but I believe that it should be sufficient to support a sidewalk.
Then to go back to that point, does the complete renovation cost include us doing a sidewalk now, not coming back a year later or 2 years later? Not that it's an exorbitant cost, but it's still cost.
So we haven't really defined where that 10,000 linear feet is. So it could be that in that project, could not. It could be that bids come in really well and that we can add it if they come in. Again, to your point, it's not a significant cost to adding a sidewalk. There is one that currently already goes down the walkway over there, so.
Okay. No, thank you very much.
Yep. So, so one of the questions may be is how did we go from $75 million to $99 million? So the original scope of $75 million, that estimate was created back in March of 2023. Since then, there has been increased costs all around, both labor and materials. Additionally, since we had a lot of time to think about what this addition is going to look like, we've been able to kind of conceptually understand what we wanted in these spaces, and our architect with campus construction was able to get a better justification of what the cost is. So some of it is due to a clearer scope, increase in escalation in prices, just throughout the years. I had another, and then there was also some additional increases. So when we had the $75 million, we did not have the CTE classroom plus another one in the original scope. The air conditioning was not in the original one. And one of the approaches that we want to do is this does include an escalation factor. And we have seen other districts in the past that without that escalation factor, after they made a promise to the community, they had to do cuts into the project. So this $99 million, we feel comfortable that what we're telling the community, we're going to actually be able to provide to them. So that was very critical in getting to that dollar amount, because some person may be voting on a certain item, and the last thing we want to do is remove that from the project because of quotes. So, the scope of the project versus cost. Despite the total costs, the financial implication to the community will be minimal due to the significant building aid that we will be talking about in the near future, plus savings from the capital reserve. So, after an 18-month battle with Facilities Planet, we were able to get the amount of the junior senior high addition aid ability up to just under $11 million. So before, when we spoke a couple months ago, we were only at about $442,000. They were going to aid one secure vestibule at $442,000, which was about 2% of that addition. Now we are sitting about 55% of this building, and that number arguably should be higher as part of the calculation when they figure out the number of interchangeable classrooms we should have. They use a student occupancy of 30 students. We were unable to get them to move on that number, so It's not that these classrooms are not needed, it's just that they use an archaic number of the number of students that we're supposed to put in there. So if we were to go back through the state's calculation and use our enrollment numbers or class size number of 25, this addition is probably maybe not quite what we need, but it's something that we can live with. So although it's only 55% aided, it's based off of really old numbers, but that makes 80% of the project eligible for aid because 45% of that addition was not eligible and the intermediate cafeteria expansion. So 80% of the project will be receiving 75% aid.
Derek, just for the junior, senior high or every part?
The entire, so 55% of the junior, senior high, but 80% of the entire project is eligible for aid.
So 100 million,
$80 million is eligible.
28 from our reserves, and then the rest is going to get 80% aid.
Well, even the stuff that comes out of our reserve is eligible for aid too. So even if we're paying for it, it is a approved project by SED and is eligible for aid as well.
So what is the swag on how much the state would be paying off of that total?
So if I'm doing just rough about 55 million. So I'm just taking 80 million and 75% of that, 55, 60 million.
If it came in less and we didn't use the overage, is it kind of like the state doesn't give as much aid and we get some of it back, or is it one or the other?
So if we don't, are you saying if we don't spend the whole $99 million?
Yeah, if we don't use that, because part of that is a percentage, it's an overage, just
Right.
in case.
So if we don't use that, we will never borrow it, so we won't have debt payment, but we also won't have aid. So you don't have to borrow all of it if you don't go that far.
Gotcha.
Yep. So through the process, as you go in the beginning part, we will capitalize on our capital reserve. So the beginning part of the construction will be paid for in cash through our capital reserve. And then you issue what's called a bond anticipation note, which is our short-term borrowings. Once the project's done, then you do the bond, which is the long-term financing. And at that time is when you figure out how much the district will be paying for the next 15 years.
Are you considering like a spot rate or a forward rate on that bond, or you have guidance on that?
So there's a lot of speculation in the market because the timing of when this will come to borrow, because again, after the community votes on it in October, if approved, we go into a design phase, then you go into a review phase where you send the drawings to SED, and then you got to get their approval, then campus construction and their team help us develop the bids, then you award the contracts, and then we start the ground. So we're looking at not even doing our first borrowing until 2.5, 3 years from now, because we're going to start using our cash first. We don't want to be paying interest on money when we have money towards this project. So it's hard to tell. We are hearing interest rates will be dropping in September, but that's a tough market to speculate in. Exactly. So of the $99 million, in today's construction dollars, it's $76 million. $5 million is for anticipated escalation costs between now and this whole process that we kind of touched on a little bit, speaking with Mr. Adams, but we'll share more in a little bit. And then $18 million is for incidental costs. This is for the attorney fees to write the resolution, doing the seeker, our architect, the construction management, and other incidental costs that come up with it. And that brings us up to the full $99 million. With the use of the $28 million that we have in the capital reserve, and again, this is probably a conservative estimate because we won't be borrowing this money for 2.5, 3 years. Also, the aid numbers that I gave you about the senior high was based off of February's costs. So by the time contracts are done, the state may actually give us more because they also adjust for inflation. So a conservative number for a $300,000 home is $55 per year, which if you divide over 12 months is less than $5 per month. Any questions on that?
Can you also then speak to if it's $55 a year for a $300,000 home, ballpark, $100,000 house, $200,000 house, just to give the community, if they're tuning in, some of those numbers?
So I think if I take 55 and divide by 3, what is that? You're testing my math here. $18 per year? Is that close? $18 per year for per $100,000 home.
Okay.
Do you know how many families or homes that consist of, that number?
So we're working through trying to get that number, and as you guys know, that's a moving target in this community. I mean, there's lots of, we know that there's roughly, I think there was 9,000 tax bills we issue, but with that, there's apartment complexes, there's lots of land, there's farmlands to know exactly how many are occupied residential houses. We're going to try to work on that number to kind of break it down on a per family basis as part of our communication plan.
Can you get housing start information in the district too over the next couple of years?
Absolutely.
I think that's that doesn't seem to be slowing down.
Right, yes. So as we got that information from the town of Victor and the town of Farmington in order to do our enrollment study. They are a great resource. They're very helpful for the district. We can absolutely reach out to them and kind of help project that as well.
I was communicating with Dr. Terranova 2 days ago, and I said, I'd mentioned that I thought a good communication tool would be to say, hey, the average family's going to invest this much into this project, or you're going to get this much back. Maybe it's not in your own home, but back into our community, which is money you were never going to see in the first place. So
Right.
that would be helpful for people to hear it in those terms.
Yep, absolutely.
For everyone who's not packing the chairs here right now, but might watch this later. So the cost of the project, 99,419,031. We end up using our reserves, certain percentage, which we don't know yet, gets approved for aid. So we've approved 99 million. If we come in under that, does that money then come back to where we're looking at it saying we're going to approve to put it in the capital reserve for future funds? Just
We wouldn't even borrow it.
We wouldn't take it. We just
no. What I'm saying is, so if I'm at home, I'm going, oh well, this is going to increase my tax this much per month. If that's happening and I'm paying those, and we spend less, what happens to the money that I've already been paying in my taxes?
So that the $55 per year won't kick in for 2.5, 3 years until we start borrowing. So if we don't end up needing it, it would never have went into their tax bill. They would have never paid it.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. I just want to put that on record.
Yep.
So if we don't spend the 99, that's actually not the impact. It's going to be even less than that.
Oh, absolutely,
taxpayers.
yes.
That's, I just want to make
sorry,
sure that they
my
understand.
misunderstanding. Yep, but that's absolutely true.
Then future builds, future residential builds that fall into any of these categories, they will continue to also pay
If
this.
it gets spread amongst them, it's part of it's part of the tax cap calculation. It's called the capital exclusion at the end. So it gets built in the levy. So it's not just houses that exist today that have to bear
Future
the tax
houses
burden.
as
It's
well.
everybody is forever.
Yeah, I think that's why I was asking about housing start information, if you kind of had that to forecast or project.
Yes. Yeah, again, we feel that 55 is probably, again, a conservative number, but we don't want to be dishonest. So updated timeline, we are seeking approval of the seeker and the capital project today. We will work on a communication plan, and hopefully we have a public vote on Thursday, October 24th. If approved, we will start the design work of the additions. Most of it, we kind of have a conceptual idea, but we do want to involve stakeholders, the people in the spaces that are using it. You know, when we originally came up with the idea, our needs may have shifted, our course offering may have changed, so we'll clearly define what that scope will look like during that period. Once we get those design works, the architects will build the drawings, and then we submit the drawings to facilities planning. And as of what I did this presentation, the wait time to approve the drawing is at 30 to 32 weeks. There's an asterisk, we'll talk about that. Issue bids in the spring of 2026, and then hopefully break ground summer of 2026. So several years ago, New York State has implemented what's called a third-party reviewer for these projects because they were getting into the pipeline and they were backed up, and you're seeing this timeline. So the BOCES out of the capital region did an RFP for architects to kind of do the preliminary review with notes, turning it over to facilities planning, and it expedited the process down to 4 to 8 weeks roughly, depending on the size of the project. Unfortunately, the architects started losing money on it, so they discontinued it. People stopped doing projects because of COVID. Now everybody's coming out of COVID, and they're now being inundated with people requesting capital project. So I think the timeline was October that New York State is going to roll out this third-party reviewer. If we were doing a $4 or $5 million project, I wouldn't recommend it, but as we saw in the escalation of the last 18 months, and the size of this project, it would be my recommendation that the district would use some of the incidental money to pay for a third-party reviewer. It would be eligible for building aid. That would stop any other additional escalations. We've waited long enough. Our staff has been suffering. Our students have been suffering. Let's give them the space to learn and to teach. So that's just a recommendation. So the asterisks represent a timeline using the 30 to 32 weeks that could potentially be shortened if we did use that third-party reviewer. Any questions on that? Dr. Terranova.
So we need to,
I have one question, sorry, and I don't know if it's for Mr. Verlies, Dr. Terranova, or Mr. DeLucia. When we vote, are we voting on also accepting your recommendation to include a third-party review, or are we just voting on the capital project itself?
So are you talking about the third-party review? So you don't need to vote on it, but it would be nice to kind of get an informal approval. It could come at any given time, but if you guys are pretty comfortable with it, you can kind of give us the head nod, and then we can kind of build our timeline and operate that way now.
Is that covered within the 99 million scope?
Yes. No additional increase in costs.
Yeah, and the potential there is that it would stop escalating cost if we get things done sooner.
Absolutely.
So it's money well invested.
Yep.
Yeah, it's my interpretation. So I think you got your nod.
Yeah, I totally got the nod.
Yeah.
so obviously, our communication plan is going to be critical, depending on if the board approves this, then we would move forward with this communication plan, and we put in there, we just need to tell our story, and we need to tell it as transparently as possible and answer any and all questions of the community. And again, just be open and honest about what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how we're trying to mitigate costs as much as possible. One of the things that Campus Construction has, and I want to thank George Spinaris and Mark Esposito from Campus Construction for being here. They're going to play an integral role along with SWBR, our architect firm, who both groups did a great job supporting us to try to get more state aid on the project. They have a PR person that works at Campus Construction that can support Kim Dole and Liz Welch, who also do an amazing job, and we can work as a team to promote and tell our story. So everything on this slide is what we're going to do. We're going to have a more specific plan in terms of communication for the board within the next 2 weeks. But it obviously will include social media. It'll include written explanations of our capital project. It'll include question and answers, short facts. It'll include our website being updated with all of this information. We will have most likely multiple videos that will involve the board in to make sure that's broadcast across the community with real pictures and video of what it looks like in these buildings right now to really drive home the evidence of why we need this project done. Multiple presentations to community, which also includes really strong reach out to our different groups, whether it's boosters, the PTSA, et cetera. How do we make sure that all of the alumni associations, similar to what we did in 2020 around the budget vote, the tax cap, getting all of our groups who have interest in this really involved in advocating for the project itself. Certainly direct mail will play a role. But these are just general concepts. We're going to give you a much more detailed plan of communication, and a big thank you to Kim and Liz for their leadership around that.
So back to the board, any questions?
I just want to offer a comment that first, the camera adds 10 pounds, so I'm probably going to have to start working out if you're going to put me on video. So I'm going to make that on the record. Secondly, you know, I think you stated this at the beginning very clearly, Dr. Terranova, the amount of unprecedented growth we've had since the 40s, but in particular, you know, in the last decade and beyond. And I think we're going to continue to see that growth. I think we are feeling the pains of that growth. This is a really important thing. I think that I don't want to speak for everybody on the board, but I don't think we take this lightly looking at making this decision to go forward, but it's kind of exciting too when you see the mission, vision, and values work that's being put forward, and you really can feel some of this excitement too. So I would not personally want to feel as though a lot of the details that we're looking at now are underscoring how exciting this can be too for the community. So I just wanted to make that comment and say that this feels like a really pivotal moment for us as a district, and it's in line with some of what we've been hearing around the one campus feel and the We Are Victor vibe. So I just wanted to make that comment clearly.
I loved all of the different ideas for the communication plan. A potential other avenue in addition would be if you could have like visuals or something up during the fall open houses, because so many parents inundate those buildings, or the August, September Meet the Teacher days, because again, so many families come in during those times, and it would just be a way for them to just visually see it in a building on our campus. I think the social media pieces and the videos are so important as well, and the direct mailings, but just thinking about when people are physically on the building, in the buildings and, you know, present on campus, and potentially I don't know if it's still called Hang Around Victor Day, but like that would also be another avenue. I know that they do tents and things for different community groups.
Climb Aboard Victor is the new Hang Around Victor Day. I think it's September 13th or 14th.
What's the one that's
so-
Saturday?
Not this Saturday, September.
I know there's one happening this Saturday
The
too, so
music.
we won't hit that.
Yeah, Music Fest. I just want to say, we have needed space for years, so yes, please go as big as you can because it's needed. It's, you know, everybody's kind of feeling the pains of being so tight and not having space. So I applaud you for trying to get the numbers down as well as can be. I think it's worth the investment. As a community member, as a taxpayer, we value this campus and we value having educated kids and happy teachers and all of that. So kudos, do it. The other thing this screams to me is work-based learning opportunity. So the architects, you best have some of our students working with you and shadowing you, because it will be a win-win. You know, teaching our kids, and then they can teach you because they're the ones living in the space and they have that history. So from, you know, right now, like the planning stage, you know, September, I'm hoping you have SUATs working on getting you interns and things like that, because it is, you know, that would be a wonderful opportunity, and we wouldn't have to worry about students having to do transportation and all that. So it would open it up to so many kids that don't have access to the work-based learning. So I love that idea. So yeah, just, you know, making it happen sooner than later is great. So thank you.
Other comments?
I'll just say that we talk about teaching our students perseverance all the time, and I just personally want to thank you, Mr. Veliz, because I can't imagine more perseverance that we saw out of you over the last few years in getting us to this point. It was not easy, and I'm sure there were many days you thought this is never going to happen. So thank you for not giving up on our district and showing up today to show us how this all can happen. I think it's teaching all of us and our district a lot about how hard everyone here is working to make these schools better.
That's not possible without a supportive board and a great team to work with.
We weren't looking for that.
Colleagues
back from
over
you.
there and our
It's
architects
okay to
and
be
construction.
back.
It's a team project.
Yeah, again, just one, thank you. Two, I'm glad that you highlighted the fact that our teachers and students have been suffering too long, because if you take care of the faculty, guess what? That's who takes care of our children. And they then kind of invigorate the adults in the building because of their energy. I have to admit, I first had pause when I saw the number and when we got the preliminary piece. What I've taken away is the time that it was delayed gave everybody to have a more purposefully and positively impactful view of what it is. And so that increase I look as it's a better plan. And I think it's a little bit more educated and it's wiser as far as from a long-term planning process. So I appreciate that, and I'm going to be voting yes.
I was going to say, just looking at the increase in numbers from the beginning to now, that just shows you how much the numbers are going to go up in the future. And the majority of that stuff is stuff that's going to happen one way or another. We got to pay for it now or later. Prices are not going down, so let's just get it done now while it's aidable. I don't like spending money, but I like investing, and if it's aidable, then let's go.
Here, here.
Okay. My statement is, I think, I'm paraphrasing something that Derek, you said. Let's give our students quality space for quality education. I think that sums it up quite well. It's a good plan. Let's do it. Okay, anything else before we move on? So I need a motion to approve the State Environmental Quality Review Resolution. It is a negative declaration, which means basically it will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts. So that's what the State Environmental Quality Review Resolution is about, something the state requires. So a motion, please.
Lisa.
Lisa, second.
Brian?
Brian, any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. And then the next one is a motion to adopt a resolution of the Victor Central School District, New York, calling a special district meeting to authorize the expenditure of monies for school purposes and the levy of a tax, therefore, and the legal notice for the special district meetings as submitted. A motion, please. Elizabeth? Second?
Lisa.
Lisa? Any other comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Carried. Thank you very much. And then the last thing we want to do is give you that nod you were looking for, to use a third-party evaluator, is that what it is? To help me with the words.
Reviewer.
Third-party reviewer.
Third-party reviewer, thank you. So I think, yeah, everybody nod that you're in agreement that we would do that because it makes sense.
Yes.
Okay, there's your nod. You heard all our heads shaking, right? Great, okay. Okay, we're at item 7D, Select Board of Education Committees for 24-25. I gotta find my listing. I know I have it here somewhere.
It's page 77 in the board packet.
Yeah,
Do have it printed out.
I have one printed too somewhere. I'll get to it. We should have background music while I'm looking for papers, right? Found it. Did I say that out loud too? Okay, first one is advocacy. I'm sorry, what?
For all the people watching, you
Yeah.
said it out loud.
Said it out loud. Advocacy Committee. Dee DeLucia, Lisa Kostecki. We're 23-24. Anyone want to change? Anyone interested? Or should we keep it the same?
I'm happy to stay on.
As am I. Okay. Athletic Hall of Fame Committee was Christopher Parks.
I would like to stay on if possible. We actually just met Tuesday.
Everybody okay? All right. Audit Committee. It's usually leadership plus one, so we had myself, Lisa, and Kristen Elliott, who has resigned, so someone else interested in being on the audit?
I'm interested.
Brian? Okay with that?
Sounds great.
So Lucia Kostecki and Brian, whatever his last name is. OC's liaison and alternate.
Adams, for the record.
Thank you very much, Chris, for that respectful response. Mutually respectful.
Yep. OC's liaison.
Was it Kristen last year?
It was Kristen last
Okay.
year.
Just to
I don't,
clarify.
yeah, it was Kristen. So we need a BOCES liaison at this point, at least,
Yeah.
because both Trish and Kristen are gone.
Last year was you.
I think it was.
Kristen was the alternate.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Mr.
I did
DeLucia
it
was the.
because I had a,
I've got him right here.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, because I had a thorn in my side.
Yeah.
Still have that?
You still have a
same
thorn? Because you did pretty well using that thorn, so.
I do, yeah. I'll continue with
That
that.
would be great. I think that'd be
Alright.
good for us. You're a good thorn
Yeah.
in people's sides.
District-wide school safety team and alternate. Oh, do we need an alternate? Yeah, we need an alternate for BOCES. I'm sorry.
I'd like to be the alternate if Mr. Snyder wants to be the.
You're talking about the BOCES.
BOCES?
Oh, I'm sorry. No.
And
We're still up on BOCES.
Yeah, I
We
had to
need an
jump back to
alternate.
Oh, an
BOCES
alternate.
because I need an alternate.
Do you volunteer for
Oh,
that,
please.
Dr. Parks?
You would?
I would do it. I'll do it.
Who
Lisa
did?
said she would do it.
I will do it. I'll be
Okay.
the alternate.
I'm so confused.
No, he was moving ahead.
All right, now we're at district-wide school safety team. Adam and Christopher.
Yes, please.
Name?
I would like that if they continued
Okay.
on in those roles.
Facilities.
I feel safe knowing that.
Facilities Committee, Elizabeth and Kristen Elliott was there, so who else?
I'd like to stay on.
Okay, it sounds like Elizabeth and Carol. Is that good?
That's good.
All right. Graduates of Distinction Committee, Brian Adams. Mr. Adams, again? Professor Adams?
Would love to stay on the Graduates of Distinction Committee
Okay.
and be more,
Is that
Present.
allowed, by the way? Do they have, in their bylaws, do they have term limits? Okay,
put me down for next year too.
okay, so Brian's got that one. Inquiry Program Rep. Carol? Everyone good with that?
Sounds good.
Monroe County School Board Information Exchange Committee member and alternate.
I'm just looking facilities. I missed. I apologize.
What's that?
Facilities is who now?
Is Elizabeth and Carol.
Got it. Thank you.
I didn't write it
Elizabeth
down.
staying on, Carol's being added.
Monroe County School Board Association Information Exchange. I'm happy to continue. I mean, these are noontime meetings,
Yeah.
so.
I have to rotate off as an alternate because I don't have that time free if you're not
They work
available.
well for me. I try to join almost all of them, like noon works for me, so if we need to,
Yeah, I need to
You off,
rotate off.
I would do
Apologize for that.
So you're bowing out and,
I can't do it. I'm not free during that time.
okay, so I would continue.
And my understanding is too, you actually can go to those anyway, just being a board member.
of course you
Yeah.
can.
So
Yep,
anybody can go to
100%.
them,
Yeah.
so as long as we have it staffed.
Yep.
Yes, that's,
So
I think
it's
that's great, because there'll be
DeLucia.
times where if you can't,
Someone else
I
could.
can, and if it's at the DoubleTree, it's down the street.
They're also on, are they
We're
still
also on
Zoomed?
Zoom.
And there's Zoom.
Yeah.
now, too.
So, well, we all know
Will they
how that
still be
goes.
this year?
Yes, as of the last one, they talked about how they'd be carrying on the Zoom for,
So where are we?
the Monroe County
Myself
School
and
Board
Lisa?
Information Exchange.
Right?
Yep.
It's you and me, okay. Dee and Lisa. Monroe County School Board Labor Relations. It was myself and Elizabeth last year.
I'm happy to stay alternate on that because that's during my lunch period, so I'm happy to stay on.
I'll continue. Is that all right? Monroe County School Board Legislative Committee and alternate. Myself and Adam Snyder were last year. Same?
Sounds great.
Okay. Policy Subcommittee, Lisa, Elizabeth, and Adam.
I would like to stay on.
As would I.
Same?
I'm interested, but I'm not going to fight for it. But I'm interested in being involved with the policy subcommittee.
Anyone want to drop off?
No, I would like to stay on.
No.
You lose.
I mean, if you're not going to fight for it.
not going to fight, then,
I mean, I'm not going to fight for it, but I have interest in what goes on with the policy subcommittee. So is there a possibility that we can have other board members be invited to those conversations and
As
reviews?
long
No,
as there's
because-
not four at the same
not a-
time.
Okay.
Have a quorum.
Yeah, then we have a quorum.
Brian, just so you know, the policy review that we're doing through Erie One, board is seeing a lot of those anyway as a whole. So you will see quite a few. I haven't even involved really the subcommittee.
Couple months now.
Just, yeah, it's only been maybe twice that I've had to do that, but, so you will see a lot of them.
And actually, almost always, when it's come to the policy subcommittee, we have said, hey, this needs to go to the full board.
Right,
There's things in
right.
here that everyone would need to see. So we very rarely won't do anything without the full board.
Right.
Is it reasonable then to note that if there is a policy subcommittee meeting, that one of the three of you is unable to attend, that we get word to Brian? That he could make himself available for that meeting?
I would be fine with that, sure.
Sure.
Just to your point about being
Yeah.
interested in it.
And it's because of a quorum that we can't have four people sitting there, is that correct?
That way, if
Correct.
there's one of the three that
Yeah.
cannot be there.
Sure,
There's someone else.
Just email to
absolutely.
Brian saying if you're available.
Yep. Maybe what I'll do is I'll put on there in an alternate position, Brian, so that we know there's the three. But if they can't, one of them can't make it, we'll reach out to Brian.
okay, good, great.
Okay?
Technology Committee was Lisa and Brian.
I'm happy to continue on with that.
Yep, me too.
Because we just love technology, Brian.
Okay. Visual and Performing Arts Hall of Fame.
I'd be happy to go back to it. I stepped away from it because of the number of years that you could serve on it.
But now that's over.
But that's over because I've been gone for a year. But at the same time, I also don't want our newest board member to not feel like she's getting opportunities to be on committees.
Yeah, like I wouldn't mind being on that one, but
If you'd like to do that, then no, I think then go for it. I think that's great.
yeah.
Okay,
I didn't
Carol?
like push you into that, right? I just
I was thinking, like, that was on my list of like, oh, that'd be cool. But I didn't want to
Nope, perfect.
speak up if you were interested in it.
Okay, Carol it is. That's it, right?
Yeah,
We be done.
well done.
Okay, where am I? What's my name? Why am I here? We are at E. 7E, mentor for new Board of Education member, which would be Carol. So who would like to volunteer to be mentor for Carol?
I'm not trying to put anyone on the spot for this, but when I first came on, Elizabeth, having just finished her first year, mentored me, and I found that incredibly beneficial because they had just come off that first year, which I think those of us who have now served more than 1 year, that first year is your toughest. You're still trying to figure everything out, so I thought that experience was really beneficial to me. I then, tried to give it back to do the same thing for Brian, because I had finished my first year, so I think there's something to be said for first years to mentor the next person, just putting it out there. But that basically means, Brian and/or Adam would have to do it or do it together. I don't know.
Or the guy with the most years.
Or the guy with the
Well,
most
that's what
years.
to be honest with you, I was just going to say that was what I was thinking. And also, folks who with a lot of experience, I think, make really good mentors. I don't think, that's not to say that I agree with you that if you've gone through a lot of the stuff in your first year, you can talk about a lot of the first year stuff, but there's a lot of unknown stuff that I'm not even sure in my first year that I could answer, and I would still be looking for folks in a vice presidential or a presidential role to help mentor. So certainly up to you, Carol, I think, to where you feel comfortable, but I would be honored to work with you if that's the recommendation that's given.
In the past, we've also had more than one board member serve as a mentor. I had Christopher and Kristen as official mentors, but everybody really had a hand in helping me that first year, so I would be happy to co-mentor if we want to go down that avenue too.
So are we saying that, Brian, you're going to be the mentor for Carol?
I think that's what Lisa said, and then I just agreed under
Lisa-
duress. So,
You had to do
Lisa twisted your arm
but
and
I would be honored to work with
acquiesced.
her. But I do think that there's going to be value in having some mentor sessions with
Obviously, we
leadership.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's something I did not take advantage of, and I think you guys should be ready.
And you do that automatically
Yeah.
anyway to all new board members.
Yeah, and
to
I'm
review.
I'm available for meeting at any time. If you know, I've had meetings with Brian at Nazareth where I got tickets, but still worked okay.
And at the end of
Yes,
the day, you
I
can
would be
call
happy to
any
meet
board
with any
member,
board
too.
member.
Yes, of course we all will, right?
Okay,
Sounds like Brian.
Brian.
I just voluntold him, didn't I?
Yeah,
I
that was
did.
slick, yeah. Okay, item F, approve the following trip, varsity baseball to Myrtle Beach, 4/12/25 to 4/20 to participate in spring training. A motion, please.
So moved.
Christopher, second.
Adam.
Adam? Any comments on that? Should be nice.
Have fun.
Do we have a board member?
Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, abstentions, motion carried. Item G, policy review. First reading and final reading of the following policy, non-discrimination and equal opportunity, policy 0100. Want to say anything about that, Maureen?
The reason we're bringing it to you as a first and a final is because the only change is a title change. We don't have the title Associate Superintendent anymore, so we'd really like to get that changed as soon as possible so that people understand who they would need to contact in case of a situation. So because that's really the only change, I recommend not going through a second read next month with a final.
Everybody good with that?
Absolutely.
So did I get a motion? I didn't yet, right? I need a motion.
I'll make that motion. Oh, give it to Dr. Parks.
Elizabeth, and second by Christopher. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Item 8, nothing for Monroe County School Boards Association, at least not for me. Any standing committee updates? Anyone? Just
Yes.
watched.
Athletic Hall of Fame met. I cannot announce who is unanimously voted because they have been notified, but a public announcement will be coming out from the athletic office very soon. And actually, I just checked the district website to make sure it didn't come out during the meeting. So it has not been announced, so I can't announce it, but we have selected 3 members to be inducted in October, and they'll be the honorary captains at the homecoming football game.
Oh, fun.
So
Nice.
stay tuned.
Okay. Moving on, item 9, upcoming events. New education orientation, August 20th, in the middle of the night, 8 a.m. Item B is Superintendent's Conference Day, opening day for staff, August 28th, again, middle of the night, 8 a.m. Item C is next regular board meeting is September 12th, 2024, 7:15 p.m., more to my liking. Item D, Board of Education retreat. We wanted to try and get some dates.
So last year, we did the Board of Education retreat in 2 evenings in September, and we did them consecutively, if it worked. So if we can't do it tonight, my thought is that I would try to put some dates out there this week or tomorrow, there's only 1 day left, to see if we can get some ideas of what would work best for. And we did a dinner and then, retreat for maybe 2.5, 3 hours is what we did each night.
A doodle in the past, yeah.
I can do that,
Did you do
yeah.
a doodle request? Because then it'll give us like,
Yeah, so what I can do is I'll send out, it's a doodle request, so you can see, it'll come through your email, and then you can go in and see what everybody's chosen, so that way people can see, well, if most people can make it on a given day, then maybe I can adjust my calendar to make it that day as well. So I could do that.
that would,
That would be
for me,
great.
that'd be extremely helpful because then I can see, well, you know what? Okay, they can all do it. I can't. I need to move my
Yeah,
schedule. if
I could do that,
Agree.
definitely.
Okay.
Yep.
And the content of the retreat is CBA.
Yeah, we haven't really discussed
we
the
haven't sat
content.
down.
I know one of the items you'll be talking about is your goals, your board goals.
Right.
for next year, which is typically taking the goals that you currently have, rolling some of them over, adding some new ones. But we haven't really discussed.
No, there was something that Elizabeth captured for us. I can't remember what it was called. Some points that I've saved. I'll have to pull that out and see what they are.
Last year?
No, yeah, from last year. Yeah, there's some items that we wanted to pay attention to, so I'll get those out too, and we'll kick it around. But if anyone has any ideas, send them forward to everyone. All right? We'll meet to try and plan for that. Okay? All right.
So is that a request from you that we'll do our doodle, but then also submit ideas to Maureen or to you and Lisa, or if we have any?
You can send them to Maureen, and then we'll look at them and send them out to everyone. Okay, that makes sense. All right. New York State School Board Association Annual Convention. I know I'm interested in going. Is anyone else?
And Carol had mentioned she's interested in going as well.
Okay.
So if you're definitely interested, Carol, I can get you registered. And Tim, I know I have you interested in you should be registered as of today, Carol. I'll do you tomorrow morning.
Okay.
You'll get links to your housing registration. I ask that you forward those to me so that I can do the housing registration, because they're not sending me the links as well, which I'm not sure why.
Okay.
I'm tentatively interested. I just talked to
Okay, and then just let me know, and then I can get you registered. If anybody else is interested,
Yes.
you're
Right.
interested.
I have to see if I can take the time off from
Okay.
school to do it.
Did I answer you on the pre-conference law?
You said yes.
Yeah, okay.
Is that on Saturday?
It's on
It's
Sunday.
Sunday and even the pre-conference, the law conference is on Sunday. It runs a Sunday to through Tuesday in New York City. I did get notification from Four County School Boards Association that they are actually they're taking a bus down for people if they don't want a motor coach. They said that will leave Newark BOCES, drop you off at the door of your hotel in New York City, door-to-door service, and it would cost non-member districts $150 per person to take the bus. Space is limited to 56 seats, and right now they don't have enough people, I think, to take the bus, so she's given us a deadline of next Friday to respond.
Is the conference and the lodging in the same building this year? Is that true?
It is true, but sometimes it's very difficult to get the lodging
Within that building? Got it. Okay.
because all the vendors get
Okay.
it first typically. But the sooner I know if you can go, that's what I try to do, is get you to that particular hotel. Definitely.
It's that Sunday.
Sunday, yeah, it's the 20th through the 22nd.
Okay, yep. So yeah, I found out the schedules. I can do that.
Okay, and then if you think you want to take the bus with Fort County, just let me know. There's other ways to get down there, and the district would cover it. You could drive, we'd pay mileage, you could take the train, you could look at airfare, however it is that you wanted to get down there.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, anything else for the good of the district?
Just a quick, I know we can obviously be at opening day for the staff. What about that new educator orientation? Is that something?
All board members are definitely invited to that. Our own Mr. DeLucia will say a few inspiring words at
I was there last year.
the new teacher orientation.
Yeah, okay. All right, good to know.
In the
Yeah,
ECS
and
auditorium.
Yep.
you'll be part of a quiz too. Remember they did the word quiz?
Yes.
Yeah, so you have
Okay,
to-
so I was there.
Yeah, be prepared to think a little.
Okay.
They'll put you on the spot. Yeah, I tried thinking once, I hurt myself. I don't do it anymore. Okay, anything else? Motion to adjourn? Adam? Second? Brian? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. We have had a meeting. Thank you, everyone.